So we have full test. Boost an ally by 1, give it Zeal. Now, this ability really isn't that good, except it allows you to play... Foltest is really the only leader that gets top-end cards that are better than Unicorn Kirinix. Because you're playing Foltest, you get to play cards like Selkirk, you get to play cards like Akvist, sometimes you get to play cards like Gaunter, if you really want to. And while you're still not really getting great rate, because really these cards are almost balanced around Foltest's existence, you have 4 mulligans, so it doesn't matter. Hansel. Probably the strongest one-shot leader in the game. I'm pretty sure in general you're getting way more than 8 points out of Hensel's order. When you're pulling the Kedweni Knight dude that boosts itself, you're getting 12. When you're pulling a Revenant, you're getting 10, as long as you can kill something. And obviously you can do some weird stuff, like try to set up a like Summoning Circle into Sabrina. Or Summoning Circle into Revenant, into Sabrina, into Hensel to kill the Sabrina. 11. 3 plus 4, 7 plus 1 plus 3. 11, yeah, okay. But yeah, so like the closest comparison of this card is like Woodland Spirit or Calvé or Harold or anything like that. It's not like old Hensel where your opponent could interact with it. You can just like play the unit and use Hensel in the same turn. Your opponent never gets to kill the unit. But yeah, you got 2 mulligans. So you are paying for that extra one-shot strength. Meh. He's a card. Ada. So they're going from probably the strongest one-shot ability to... Can I say the weakest one-shot ability? I can say the weakest one-shot ability, right? I think that's fair. So the reason this is worse than something like Unseen Elder is for a couple of reasons. One, you actually have to have a target. Unseen Elder, you always have a unit in your hands, so you're always going to get full value. But like, the bigger the damage magnitude that you're dealing is, the harder it is to find a full value target. So a lot of the time, you're going to use this hero power, and you're not going to get full 8 points. You're going to get something like 5 or 6, especially in round 3 when the round's shorter. What does Unseen Elder do? Every round you can trigger a Death Wish. But yeah, at least you have 3 mulligans, right? Kill Siri? Yeah, it does kill Siri, sometimes, as long as they're not Morvran. King Demavend. Order. Give 1 charge to a unit. Cooldown 2. This guy's so much fun. When the charge deck gets to do its thing... Oh man, when the charge deck gets to do its thing, it's so cool. A charge is generally going to be worth like 2 points. Because you're going to be doing it with stuff like Reinforced Ballista, you're going to play Siege Tower, you're going to play the golds, you're going to play like Margita Brocket, you're going to play Ivo. You might consider playing like Roche Merciless, that kind of stuff. So instead of Croc, where Croc gives you 1 point every 2 turns, Demavend gives you 2 points every 2 turns, as long as you can keep a unit that can make use of those charges in play. The problem is, keeping a unit that can make use of those charges in play is often impossible. Yeah. The only one that can stick is Neneke. But even if Neneke sticks, it's not a 2-point thing, right? You're only getting 1 point per charge. So it's not as good to stick it. Draug. Draug. What a card. This is the best finisher in the game, right? Kind of carries an R. Best gold NR. Oh yeah, not close. CDPR is gonna nerf Draug. Are they really? Why? Why would you nerf Draug? Just nerf Sabrina if you're that worried about the deck. Why nerf the cool card? What the fuck? Sabrina will also be nerfed. Oh man. Poor NR. Such a cool card. Nerfing Foltest too. What the fuck? Why would they nerf everything? What's the point? Why would they nerf the only thing going on in this faction? And are so oppressive. Yeah. They surveyed a bunch of people and they all just said, I don't even know what they could have said. NR being viable in present meta was never a goal of CDPR. Honestly, after the Croc deck got popular, I don't even think there's a viable NR deck anymore. The Draug deck is like literally 90-10 for the Croc deck. The top player reached 2630 with 8 artifact degeneracy. All the artifact decks are the same. It doesn't really matter what faction you play it in. Which Croc deck? Yeah, the control deck. The Wild Boar or Wolfsbane deck. It's just better in every round length. You can't bleed it. Because you can't win round 1. I feel like Kian's ability is wrongly phrased. It's basically a second Foltest Pride. Wait, is it? We'll get to it when we get to it. Vernon Roche. Okay, so if you just think of this pulling 2 average cards in your deck. If the average card in your deck is worth like 7 points, you're giving your opponent 3, you're paying 12 provisions, so it's like 15, and you're getting 14. The problem is, by the time you play this in round 3, because Foltest literally has a million mulligans, and I do in fact mean literally, the only cards in your deck are going to be 4s. So you're going to play Vernon Roche, you're going to give them 3, and you're going to get like whatever trash is left over in your deck. Just mull your good cards. So you can roll to find your good cards instead of guarantee having them. You can pull 2 orders and guarantee one of them survives. Okay, that is one thing that it does. If you get really lucky in your Demavend deck, and you hit double order units, then yes, this could just win you the game. Scarred for life with a Twitch Prime. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Enjoy your new emotes. Oh, the other Roche. The merciless one. Order. Seize an enemy whose power is less than or equal to Roche Merce's charge count, then remove all charges. Speaking of Ada, what's your opinion on Vizier's control deck? Seems like a slightly worse version. Oh. I didn't really look at the particular list. I'm pretty sure it's just like another... Yeah, it's just like an artifact deck. All of these decks are the same. It doesn't really matter what faction they're in. They all kind of play the same. They all sort of do the same thing. I mean, I do think it's worse than the Woodland one. The one thing it has going for it is has that finisher of Ada into Hubert. Roast useless, 8 for 11 at best. What? No, you give it charges. This is another unit that has 2 points per charge. So in like a Demavend deck, this is a 2-point per turn engine, effectively. Granted, it's pretty expensive. But also you can throw charges on it and get more value that way. Yeah, you can give him charges. Because like when you steal a 2, it's like a 4-point swing. He's one of the only charge cards that's also passive. You don't have to give him charges to be generating value. Cool if you can seize more than once. You can seize more than once. Every time you have charges, you can seize. You play it and guess what? Arbol is Tyrell. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, that's... I'm currently playing it in my Demavend deck. It's cool. It does a thing that I needed it to do. I just needed more 2-point charges. And this gives them to me. Try to include them though. Avlock is pretty much necessary. You're just trying to overload their removal. You just play so many things that they have to answer, they don't have enough removal to answer them all. So Avlock doesn't do anything in that case, right? Fortunate engine, you just stick on board for more than 2 turns. Yes, because everything in your deck needs to stick on the board. Eventually something lives, and then you can get value. 4 for 11 is shitty rate. Yes, that's the problem with Demavend. Correct. I'm not saying this card is great, but it fills a role if you need another card that gets 2 points per charge. And being passive, too. Like, not needing to put charges on it to get value out of it. Is interesting, that's kind of unique to it. Reynard Odo. Okay, so what? If every charge unit in your deck gets 2 points per charge, as soon as you play 3 whole charge units, you're getting value on this? Something lives after losing so much value and you just lose. Yeah, I mean, that's literally NR. It's literally NR. It's the entire faction. Or, not the entire faction. Every non-Draug card in the faction. Yeah, not good. Bloody Baron. Double an allied unit's charge count. There's gonna be 7. Yeah, they could drop this to like 7 and it'd probably still be not good. I don't know, maybe it'd be fine. This is just a worse Priscilla, right? Because it doesn't even have Zeal. You can't choose what it goes on, just whatever you play. Double an allied unit's charge count. So, the problem with this is that you generally want to use your charges as soon as possible. Just so your opponent doesn't have some opportunity where you've built up a bunch of charges and they kill your unit and you don't get any value. So it ends up being kind of tough to get a good Bloody Baron, especially when this card is this overcosted. For this to break even, assuming 2 points per charge, you already needed 3 charges on a unit. And our needs not good gold because most golds are unplayable. Yeah. Playing Baron is so greedy. Yes. Instead of playing Baron, I'd almost in every case just rather play Stennis. I actually really like Stennis. As long as you have any of your engines live, Stennis is great. He doesn't require you to do any crazy things like stockpile charges. Just in terms of raw points, you're getting 7 for 9. And then with the 2 charges, assuming 2 points per charge, you're getting an additional 4. So you're getting an 11 for 9. And that's in almost every time you play this and your plan is going remotely well. You're getting good value on Stennis. Much better than this. It's even less provisions and more points. Keon. Damage a unit by Keon's charge count. This has the exact same problem as Bloody Baron. Like, if you're trying to meme around and you just want to, like, go for the all-time, I want to deal the most damage anyone has ever dealt in one turn, then yeah, you're probably going to need to use Keon and Bloody Baron. But if your goal is just to win games, you probably don't want to be playing Keon and Bloody Baron. It really depends on your goals. Though again, I guess, if your goal is to win the game, you probably just don't want to play an order deck. So I guess if we evaluate every card from that perspective, we'd be skipping over a lot of NR cards. Falibor. Deploy. Melee. Destroy an enemy. This is a card? Okay, wait. So with artifact removal, they seem to realize that, like, consistency and reliability are worth something, right? Never mind. I don't even know where I'm going with this. For some reason, this is a 3 for 10. Kiramitz. Play a spell from your deck. I had the same opinion on this as every other spell tutor. I don't know. They could probably drop these by, like, at least 1, probably 2 provisions. And then they start getting interesting. But right now, they just brick too much. And the rate just isn't really there. Huh. We don't have to talk about that, right? Like, we're... I'm sorry. I just laugh hysterically whenever it pops up on my screen. Okay, I'll stop. John Natalis. All allied units with orders gain zeal. I mean, the zeal's worth something, right? Like, now when your like bronze dude dies, at least you're getting 2 points before it dies. If this were just like this definitely wouldn't be too good as like a 6 for 7, right? 6-point buy is hard to kill in 1 turn. Sure, but it's not like it's an engine that's winning you the game. You can kill this over 2 turns. Like, what is giving an order zeal worth? I only say that because I know all order units suck. Yes. Like, putting this card in your deck isn't going to enable you to play the good order units. You're still not going to want to play Selkirk outside of Hensel. Oh my god. Selkirk outside of Foltest. You're still not really going to want to play Akvist. But in like a Demavend deck where you're playing a ton of order units, it gives you a way to get value out of your initial charges before your opponent gets a chance to just blow them up. Because you look at Reinforced Ballista, right? It's a 3-for-5 that if it lives a turn, you're getting 2 additional points. When you have Natalis in play, you're getting 5-for-5. And you get to cash out a leader charge as well. I think it's good and balanced. I mean, I don't think I'd ever want to play this card as it is right now. I think it's very, very weak. I'm just not really sure what it's trying to accomplish. Because the only way Demavend works is if you're overloading your opponent's removal. This card makes it so the trades aren't as bad while your opponent's removal's getting overloaded. But it's also a unit they don't necessarily have to kill. Because it's not a Demavend's target itself. I don't know. Can only soak up 6 damage from stupid opponents. Yeah, exactly. They don't have to respect this. They can. But it's not like this card's going to end the game by itself. For your audience to get crazy value, they kind of have to live a turn. Neneke. Order. Range. Boost a unit by 1. Rollock is bad, though. Yeah. When everything's rollocked, though... when everything's rollocked, you kind of overload their movement effects, too. I don't know. But yeah, this card's cool. It helps keep your stuff alive. It's not really something that you want to give charges to necessarily, because you're only getting 1 point per charge. But it's probably not going to die before you get to use it. And as soon as you get to use it, you are getting break-even value. And then once this lives, you can use it to keep your other order units alive as well. I like Neneke. This is a cool card. I'm glad it exists. If only it wasn't range locked. I just laugh every time I look at a card. Just an NR. I have, like, negative respect for NR cards. If you expected anything else out of this faction, I don't know what to tell you. You get synergy with... Yeah. Like, I'm talking about this just in terms of orders, but yeah, you can use this to get extra points with the infantry as well. The only thing I would say about that is that generally I would rather use these charges to, like, keep Visigota alive. Like, the main idea is that you're using this Neneke, and while you don't necessarily want to give charges to the Neneke, you're using this Neneke to keep something that you do want to give charges to alive. An average orders deck without full test. How many order units of a hand of 10 need to stay alive for 1 turn? The average resilience of your card is worthwhile. It depends which one. If it's full test pride and your opponent goes wide, then 1. If it's like Vice-Agora and you somehow get it down early enough, then like maybe 2 or 3. Like, I've won games against Eithne where my opponent kills everything I play except like my last 2 threats, and those 2 threats win me the game because the Eithne deck just doesn't play points. Order units are mostly engines, only in Demavend. We kind of talked about Stennis. I like this card. I play it in my Demavend decks. Selkirk. Hey look, it's a Foltest card. Pretty good too. So if you assume that you always just use a Foltest charge on this because you're never playing this outside of Foltest, it's like a 12 for 9. It's good. Kills Siri. Kills whatever. It's good tempo. You play it. You're still not engines. Demavend is your engine. It doesn't really matter which one you call the engine, though. If you're able to kill all of their order units, then their engine isn't doing anything. The order units are the ones you can interact with. You can't interact with Demavend. Vandergrift. Damage a unit by 1. Cooldown 1. Doesn't matter because Demavend has to get the same value as a leader to begin with. I mean, your deck has to get the same value as any other deck. I don't think it really matters where you're, like, where those points are necessarily coming from. Like, Foltest doesn't get the same amount of value that Eithne does. But it doesn't matter, because the rest of your deck is picking up the slack. Don't play Vandergrift. You can replace Demavend with, say, Hensel and get the same points. Not with the same cards. Because Demavend allows you to get charges and turn your cards into engines. It makes your one-shot order cards not one-shotty anymore. Why does CDPR hate NR so much? I ask myself that same question every day for the last year. Priscilla, give a unit 1 charge. This card's cool. This card's like way better than like Bloody Baron. It's way better than Odo. It's so much better than Odo. It has Zeal. What if NR Order card just had Zeal? It'd be a very different game. Sheila de Tanserville. Deploy, damage unit by 2, order damage unit by 2. So you play it, you get 6. If it lives, you get 8. It's like a Kyranix, but it has to live a turn. Funny how that works. I'm going to continue standing by my statement that Unicorn Kyranix aren't actually that good, it's just every other card sucks. So far, I haven't been proven wrong. Sabrina's Inferno. Yeah. Margarita. Botchling! Hey, a cool card. Finally. So the cool thing about Botchling, right, is that it's an engine that that's hard to kill. Your opponent can't kill this over 2 turns because then it just flips to Liberkin. And 5 isn't that easy to deal in 1 turn unless they're Eithne. Talk about Sabrina's Curse. There's nothing to talk about. This card's terrible. Also gives you... Yeah. The worst case for this isn't even that bad. If they do kill it, you still got 6 points out of it. Dandelion. Whenever an ally gains a charge, boost it by 1. You can also proc Anna. Yeah, if you set that up properly. Playing NR artifacts with Sabrina's Inferno. Why? You're already killing everything. How are you even going to get more than a few points out of Sabrina's Inferno? You're never going to have your opponent with more than like 4 units in play. Whenever an ally gains a charge, boost it by 1. You can just not kill the units. But I'd rather just kill the units. Okay. Wait, I want to say something about this. If your opponent... If you have an immune Visigota, and then you play Dandelion, now you're getting 4 points per turn. It's like a second Visigota. You get to double it. Odrin, give 1... Voltist's Pride. Damage an enemy and all other enemies with power equal to it by 1. This guy's sweet. For some reason it has reach 3. I think almost every game that I've gotten this off, I played it on ranged, used Demavend, emoted, and then hoped my opponent didn't kill it. And then I played Strays of Spala. Those are some good games. The problem is this always just dies. Like, this is... When they see your Demavend, they know this exists, and they always save removal for it. Because this is the scary card. The one that can just end the game by itself. Even if everything else dies, this can just kill everything they have with very little investment. But, yeah. It just doesn't live. Fess. Damage enemy by 4. Give an ally Zeal, reach 2. This card's great. Even though you never really get to use this order, it's cool when you do. But really, you're playing this because it's a 3 for 8 that deals 4. Basically the same reason you play Aileron and ST. Dealing 4 kills pretty much everything that matters. At least every bronze that matters. Just kind of like the sweet spot where you want to be. Your arm, this is pretty relevant. It sometimes saves you a full discharge, but I tend to not play decks where I'm relying on Vest to get an extra order. It generally just means that I get to use a full discharge on a Kudweni Revenant later. Oh, it matters a lot in the Demavend deck for sure. Yeah. It's kind of weird, like there's sort of like two very, very, very different things going on in NR. You got the full test deck, which tries to play as few orders as possible to just like exactly break even with the full test and make sure everything that you play with orders has Zeal. And then there's the Demavend deck, which tries to do the exact opposite, play as many orders as possible, so that your opponent just doesn't have enough removal to answer all of them, and then you just hope that whatever is left over is big enough that you're able to win the game with that. This is way more relevant in the deck that is trying to overload than in the deck that's trying to play Xaxes. Which one is good? Full Test? Yeah, Full Test is obviously the good one. And that's why I was kind of reviewing this card, because in the context of Full Test, this card basically just says deal 4 damage. Sometimes the order's good, but most of the time, if your deck's built well, the order doesn't really matter. Gota. You can Avalock this guy. Then once you Avalock this guy, you can play Temerian Infantryman. And once you play Temerian Infantryman, you're getting 4 points per turn. Wow. Alright, this card's sweet. It's a human. Tried him? Oh. You guys knew what I mean. Yeah, and Dandelion. And it's 6 points per turn. Engine synergy. Rounded. I played this in my Draug deck. I'm still not sure that it was right, but it was kind of cool. So it does a couple things well. One, it comes back in round 3, so you have an extra human. But also being 1 power is sort of an upside. Because if they don't answer it, or well, they don't really want to answer it because it just comes back again. Once it transforms into Draug, you can use the ping on this Revenant and then use another Revenant to just kill the Ronvid, and you get some extra points that way. It's sort of like a... You get 6 points when you play it. It's an extra 1 point in round 2 if you decide to play into round 2. And then it's sort of like 4 extra carryover points in round 3, as long as you Draug with it. Be fine at 7. Yeah, it would be fine at 7. But like even at 8, I kind of liked it in a Draug deck. Because it's not really just 1 point of carryover. It's good value when you draw them in round 1. Only in a Draug. Outside of Draug, you're just getting 8, right? Punk plays an order deck with Vice-Agota and Avalock and Decree, getting huge value in combination with infantry and other boost cards like Neneke. It's actually really good. Yeah. That's the only thing that you can do with Vice-Agota is Vice-Agota Avalock. Otherwise it just dies. Like, you can try to play it in your deck that's overloading removal, but it doesn't really work all that often. Super low tempo? What? 6 points is definitely not low tempo. It's not great tempo, but I wouldn't say it's low tempo. It's like an average bronze. NR. It's more funny memes, right? Like if you're playing the Kion deck and you're trying to go crazy with Bloody Baron, I guess you play Bloody Flail too. Pavetta. I'm still convinced the Foltest deck is better without Pavetta. I tried playing a list with Pavetta more recently. I copied... Whose list was it? I think it was... Oh no, I don't want to say the wrong name. I copied Santu's Foltest list. And it was playing the Pavetta package. And it just feels like you have to play too many other cards, like Royal Decree and Necromancy, to make the Pavetta good. It is better to just not worry about it. And use provisions on other things. It's good when it works. Like when you're able to Pavetta in round 2 after your opponent dry passes you. And then you can do like crazy stuff in round 3 with your commandos. It's obviously nuts. But it requires another Foltest charge, because you're going to need to use a Foltest charge to keep your commando from dying. You got to be playing Royal Decree. You probably want to be playing ADC too, so you can guarantee that you have access to the Pavetta. You want to be playing... you want to have access to your Blue Stripe Scouts in round 1, ideally. Though it makes it so that they're fine in round 3 as well. Pavetta's a 6 body for 7, which is pretty decent. Yeah, except you have to play other stuff around it for the combo to work. When you face people with Pavetta, they don't use Foltest on the first Blue Stripe. Yeah, and then the Blue Stripe just dies! And then they lose the game anyway. Yeah, like you have to not use it on your first Blue Stripe, because otherwise you either won't get your Foltest, you won't get your Gaunter, or you won't get your Aquavist, or you won't get it on the second time around. But you just need to take so many extra risks for Pavetta to be good that it's just not worth playing. You can just do other stuff. You're wasting so many provisions, because it's not just these 7. Because you don't have to play Decree, you don't have to play ADC. Foltest is really good at digging through its deck. Because you have 4 whole mulligans. For the memes? Yeah, and that's kind of what it feels like. Four. That's so many mulligans, right? That's 5 mulligans on blue coin. If you don't have to use any mulligans in round 1, you thin 2 with Witchers, 1 with Roach, 1 with Blue Stripe Commando. You have 5 cards in deck, which means you have all of your deck in your hand. Or you get to see every card in your deck with your mulligans. On blue coin. And that was playing a Villum too. So on red coin I could do similar stuff. I think all leaders have 3 mulligans, except for a few that have 2 fight you. I think all leaders should have 3 mulligans, and if you want like a separate number to balance things around, just put provision costs on them. There's this whole cool deck building system that they introduced, where you have like this little food, and then this other number, and it seems to be on every card except leaders, and I'm not really sure why. And our card is tilting you so bad. I'm actually kind of sad that my opinion hasn't really changed since PTR. I trashed it just as bad after PTR. It's so much work. It's so much work. So this guy's the reason to play Ada. Even then, he's probably still just like better in Demavend, right? You could probably set up to deal more damage with Demavend than you can in Ada in one turn. I don't know. The card's cool. It's really swingy. This Sabrina's cool. Yeah. The problem is that you have to have an order unit in play already. Then you have to play Sabrina. Then you have to wait a turn. Then you kill Sabrina and play Hubert. The top 3 pro player playing Ada Hubert deck. He was playing an artifact deck. It's not really the same thing. Black Rayla. Damage an enemy by the number of human allies. For some reason, Yavin counts itself and Black Rayla doesn't. And unfortunately that like just puts Yavin to the point where Yavin is somewhat playable. And puts Black Rayla to the point where Black Rayla is just not playable. I think Black Rayla's fine as she is. I don't know about that. If she counted herself, yeah, I think she's playable. If she had like 1 more point, yeah. CDPR hates NR, we know that already. What is the Spheres for Dumbos? No, it's the it's Yavin for Dumbos. It's worded the same way. Can't we just have them work the same way? Is that really too much to ask? Like, why are these even... Never never mind. I'm not gonna talk about. I'm not going on a programming tangent. I don't envy their code base. Sabrina. This guy's sick. Or I guess this girl is sick. This card is nuts. It's the other card that makes Draug good. So the problem with Draug is your opponent doesn't have cheap units in play. All your Revenants aren't really worth very much. The nice thing about Sabrina is not only does it turn a Revenant on, it also makes the rest of their row smaller. So your other Revenants are live as well. Somehow this costs the same provisions as last rate. It's a synergy card. I mean, you can't just, like, splash Sabrina for no reason. You gotta have something that can kill it. I don't know, I like it. It's a big part of what made the Draug deck good. Not really much else to say. Curse Knight. Oh, are we on the bronzes now? Oh, there's a few more. I guess we can talk about Curse Knight. We can go to, like, what? Any more golds left? Okay, so Curse Knight. This card's basically a skip, right? This card's not relevant anymore now that Henselt's gone. Reinforcements also not relevant anymore now that Henselt's gone. Huh, funny how that works. You can use this on Blue Stripe Scout, I guess? And you get 8? Meh. Order, remove all charges from an enemy unit, give them to Taller. Order, give 1 charge to an allied unit. Also, this can be a pseudo finisher with Scytheman. Oh, this. Oh, that's true. Yeah, if you're able to get a bunch of boosted units in play, you just spam Scytheman. Oh, wait, it's a. Never mind. Why did this card exist? What the fuck? Clearly, before it was to enable Pavetta Draug, right? Or Pavetta Henselt. I feel like giving NR the best counter to NR cards is a mistake. Why is... You mean this card? You mean this? It's funny how even with no synergy, this is one of the best 4s you can play in NR. Remember how we talked about like Nilfgaard and Archispore? Like all these really sick 4s and monsters had? This is the this is what a playable NR4 looks like. Just a sneak preview of the bronzes we're going to see tomorrow. I don't know. Why? Why is this a card? Come on. You're not doing anything cool with this. It doesn't even have charges by default. So you either have to give it charges manually, or your opponent has to be an NR deck that's playing charges, or at least a deck that has charges. Why? I imagine this is probably bugged too, and you can't even take the charges off Empire Enforcers. Because I don't think those charges count as charges. Because I know if you steal Empire Enforcers, you can't give it charges. I imagine you also can't steal the charges with Taller in that case. What if reveal mechanic was made into this? Some cards reveal both players' highest provision cost unit. Your card has more power, do X. Some would be reveal both players' lowest power unit. If your cost more provisions, do X. I mean, that's a thing. Sure, you could do that. It certainly makes the RNG feel worse, kind of, but I mean, it makes it deterministic, right? It's not a roll anymore. It depends, like, what X ends up being, though. Like, if X is really swingy, I think a better solution would be do X or do Y, depending on if you win or lost. Like, have it be, like, two reasonable effects. And don't have, like, super swingy stuff locked behind reveal. Like, if Arbalist was... I don't even know how I want to say this. If Arbalist was... No, because, like, any kind of damage effect is so much better. Worst credit reveal is most cards break even while NR cards lose a point or two. Well, NR cards just suck. What are you expecting? Come on. This is the blue faction. It's CDPR. It's the natural enemy. This card's good. It's another 2-point per turn engine. The NR's got some cool stuff. It's just drown out in a pile of crap. Yeah, it's RKE. It's an RKE that you have to put a little bit of work into. It doesn't come in with the armor, you have to give it... You have to turn it on yourself. I mean, sometimes this is good, right? Like, if your opponent's the old Spear Tip deck, you can hit their old Spear Tip. You can hit their Goliath. Sometimes you get people. It lines up your Revenants. You don't have to hit anything that tall for it to be good. If you hit like a 6, you're getting positive value. It's a 5 for you to 4. Yeah, just don't hit a 4. Easy. If your opponent plays a Frenzied Dow, you can get good value on that. And who doesn't play Frenzied Dow? This guy's really not that bad. It just requires a certain metagame, and the metagame where Scoia'tael decks don't play anything bigger than 5, and Croc decks don't play anything bigger than 5. Not really the metagame where I want to include a card like Vincent in my deck. Pumpkin considers it unplayable? Well, good thing I'm not Pumpkin. I have more of an open mind than he does. Ailorin. And Ithlin. God, Magus, do you even play Gwent? He's still vulnerable at 2. He has Zeal. Doesn't matter that he's vulnerable. Okay, is that it for golds? That is it for golds. Okay, so I'm going to do the bronzes tomorrow. We'll split NR into 2 parts. Tomorrow we will also do Scoia'tael and Skellige, and that should complete the retrospective card reviews just in time for the patch. We skipped half the golds because they suck. It's really sad. I think we skipped more cards in NR than we did in any of the other factions combined. The state of these cards is just so sad. Why is Vincent not a deploy? Good question. They really wanted to use their mechanic more. Maybe I just post like a clip of me laughing for the YouTube section of the NR review. Instead of it being like a 2-hour clip, it'll just be 25 seconds of laughter. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna run some ads, find someone to host. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'll be back with the other half of NR tomorrow, same time as always, midnight Eastern time. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys tomorrow. Now, who is streaming Gwent? My review of Draug in an hour laughing. Draug is such a good card. I think Draug is the only 10 out of 10 card NR has. Vess? Yeah, maybe. I don't know about... Vess is solid, but I don't know if I give Vess like a 10. Not Selkirk? No, definitely not. Selkirk's only playable because of Full Dust. Why so much love for Draug requires a big board, accepts only humans, and horrible in short rounds? It's not really horrible in short rounds. If you can turn like 2 things into Revenants, you're still getting pretty good value. Like, the worst case for Draug, like, sure, it's like, what, like 8 or 9? You'll turn like 2 things into Draug, you'll ping something that doesn't die, and you don't get to make any more Revenants. The average Draug is like 20-something points. Guys, there's no English streamers on. Okay, anyway, now that people are here, go back and finish talking about Northern Realms bronzes. Should have played better. I mean, I could have played the Witchers first. It makes their Forktail better. I probably should have, honestly. There's not... I mean, I lose 4 points playing the Witchers first, plus 3 extra points to Forktail. It's a 7-point swing to play Witchers first. The Vice of Goat is good. I don't know if I can afford 7 points, though. Start with Winch. I think that is where we left off. Play a Bronze Machine from your graveyard. I didn't even know this was a card, honestly. What Bronze Machines are there? It's just the demo event stuff, right? Okay, so you got a couple 6s that give you break-even value for rezzing. You have Battering Ram. This card that's for some reason a card. And then Ballista Sea Shower. Is Patch out? No, Patch isn't out for another 2 days. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're doing with this. I don't think I'd ever been in this situation where I want to play more copies of Reinforced Trebuchet or more copies of regular Trebuchet. I have wanted to play more Reinforced Ballistas and Siege Towers, but I don't think I've wanted them enough to pay 6 provisions for them. Yeah. Winch for Reinforced Treb. Yeah, but why would you want to do that? This card's not even that good to begin with. Oh, I should probably kill the music. There we go. Should be a 5. It probably could be a 5. It still wouldn't be that great of a 5. The thing about reses is, like, while you do get some utility in rounds 2 and 3, because you have multiple things in your graveyard, you also lose a lot of, like, round 1 potential with these types of cards. The way they priced all the reses to be so expensive when there's no strengthen effects just seems kind of weird to me. Like, Necromancy's one thing because it's neutral, but both Freya, Winch, and like especially Experimental Remedy, I don't know why those had to be so many provisions. Should be 4. Honestly, I don't think I disagree with that. For the same reason I just mentioned. Like, this could easily be 5, and it would probably be fine at 4. It would be a good 4. As long as you're playing machines. I don't think that's a problem. Anyway. Blue Stripe Commando. This is the... I mean, this is probably the best bronze in NR, right? You can really only play it in full test, because you really want to use a full test charge on this. You could try to get greedy and, like, Vess into it in other decks. But anytime that you'll draw this and not draw the Vess, you'll be pretty sad. If you try to play this without Zeal, pretty much everyone is going to try to and be able to kill this without too much issue. But when it goes off, it's like you're playing Wild Hunt Riders with upside, with an easier condition to meet. It's the only bronze in NR. No, the other half of him is pretty good too. We'll get to him later. Like, this is the best 4 in NR. Specifically because this guy exists. Yeah, like, it's a human for Draug. People were building around this with, like, Pavetta. And in general, it's just a good thinning card that you play because it's good. Gives you another full test target. Temerian Drummer is pretty good. The only issue with it with a Temerian Drummer is the Temerian Drummer is just kind of bad. Like, once you start putting Temerian Drummers in your deck, like, you're probably not playing full test anymore. So you're doing this with, like, Ada or Henselt or something. And you're valuing the waiting a turn and getting Zeal. I mean, I guess it's not the worst. It's like a 5 for 6, as long as it lives. 4 isn't the easiest number of damage to deal. I don't know. This card is just, like, so much worse than Vess. And the good part about Vess isn't the giving it Zeal part. It's the deal 4 damage part. It's like a resource outside of full test. Yeah, but it's just a resource that kind of leads to, like, you drawing the wrong half or your opponent just, like, killing this and then you're stuck with bad cards in your deck. Because the thing about a lot of the good Zeal, the good order cards, is that if they die, they're trash. Like Selkirk, even if it just takes damage, it gets a lot worse. Octfist, if it dies, you paid 9 for a 5. Gaunter, you paid 12 for a 5. So once you start putting this in your deck, the only real things that you need to give Zeal to are those really expensive ones. And that's what Full Test does really well. Like, I wouldn't want to play Drummer just so that I can try to play this Bronze. Because the rate just isn't that good. And if I'm in the market for this kind of effect, then my leader should probably just be Full Test. Because I'll always have access to it when I need it. I don't have to hope this lives or draw this. Because, like, drawing any given bronze in your deck right now with so few mulligans isn't really a given. At least in, like, the early rounds. Anyway, we were at Commando. That's Commando. You prefer to pray to Commando live than a Drummer? I'm just saying that I wouldn't play Commando if I had to pray for it to live. I've tried playing a lot of full test lists that kind of got greedy with the full test charges, to where I'd play like 3 other order units other than Blue Stripe Commando, And it felt like I lost way too many games to my opponents just blowing up my blue stripe commandos. And then I just have one trapped in my deck that wasn't doing anything. Reliably thinning with this is just worth more than playing another random order unit. The value of a full test charge isn't that high. Like, what, you're not playing, like, a Gaunter? You're not playing, like, an Akvist? Just so that you can make sure that you can use a full test charge on commando? It's not that big of a deal. It's not like those cards are insane. If you're playing Blue Stripe Scout, you don't care that much if your opponent kills your first commando? No, you definitely do. You still don't want to have to play a commando just so you can play a Blue Stripe Scout. You're getting a much worse average value there. Like, commando into Blue Stripe Scout makes this 8 points and the Blue Stripe Scout 8 points. But when you just go commando into Blue Stripe Scout, use that commando, you're only getting 12 points on that whole exchange. So you're playing 12 provisions worth of cards to get 8 instead of 16. Or 10 provisions worth of cards to get 12 instead of 16. There we go. Plus, then later on, you're also asking for this other commando to live so your Blue Stripe Scouts are live. Instead of just, like, mulling away your Blue Stripe Scouts. Reinforced Shrebucket. Every turn, on turn end, damage a random enemy on the ranged row by 1. So it's a 6 provision card that gets 1 point per turn. It's range locked. So in Nilfgaard, there's this sweet card called Magna Division. And it costs 4 provisions. I don't know. This is so expensive for what it does. It dies, it gets moved. I mean, it is 5 for 6 the turn you play it, so if it dies, it's not the end of the world. But you kind of also can't play it super early into the round, especially if your opponent respects it, because they're just not playing on the ranged row. I guess that means that you can, like, set them up for a row punish later with Sabrina, but there's just so many ways to play around this card. You can't reliably, like, bait them into playing on melee. Why NR cards are row lock? Because they got really lazy. I don't know. I really don't know. There's actually a lot of row lock cards in other factions. Just so many of them are deploy abilities that it doesn't feel as relevant. Row lock only really matters when your opponent gets a chance to interact with it. So on stuff like Order, on stuff like Engines. But when you're just like, it says deploy, and then you do whatever with your ability, your opponent can't really do anything. It's not as weak. You don't feel it as much. But yeah, Trebuchet, it's an engine. It, if you really need this type of card, I guess. I've played it before. It's not exciting. It's not the worst card. It's just worse than most other factions' options. It doesn't really have any other synergy, like, inside of NR either. Like, it doesn't have charges, so you're not getting any benefits off Demavend. None of your golds are doing any kind of value with this. It's not like Botchling, where, like, if you flip Botchling into Lubricant, you can keep your engines alive, or you can set up your Trident infantries, or set up your Anna. This doesn't do any of that. It's just an engine with no synergy. Siege Master. Whenever a machine is placed on this row, give it Zeal. Kind of the same thoughts on this that I had on Selkirk. If your opponent's really worried about you having Zeal, they can kill this, and it's expensive. And also, like, giving machines Zeal is really just initially giving them break-even value. So if we look at, like, some of the machines, at least some of the bronze machines, when you play Reinforced Ballista and this has Zeal, you get to use the order immediately, so you're getting 5 for 5. Like, that's fine, some of it's removal. But it's not like you're cheating on provision costs when you have a Siege Master in play, right? And it's the same with Siege Tower. You're getting 5 for 5. It's the same with Ballista. You're getting 5 for 5. This is like a 6 for 6 if you're lucky. And sure, you can like put charges on these charge units to get value out of them again later. But the Zeal doesn't really matter for that. It just gives you some insurance that your card is always going to get its provisions worth of value. I think this card is playable in Demavend. I think you'd rather just play another order unit in Demavend and just try to overload their removal that way. Like, if this is relevant one time, like if your opponent has one removal spell for one of your machines, it's really only worth like 2 points or 2 additional points, and you're getting 6 for 6. I don't know, it's sort of, it's definitely like an insurance card. Like when things are going bad, Siege Master helps. But I'm not sure that it solves the problem in a way that the Demavend deck wants it to be solved. Siege Master, Temerian Drummer should be 5p. I could see that, yeah. Like if you were getting like pseudo value the turn after. Like with Siege Master in play, if you played Siege Tower and got to use it the same turn. And it's like sort of giving you 2 points even if the Siege Tower dies. It's kind of interesting. Hey Kirby, what's up? But yeah, it's 6, it's just a little bit too hard to justify. Temerian Drummer, we kind of talked about this already. Not really too much to say. It's like a 5 for 6. It depends how much you value the Zeal, but if you value the Zeal, you can just play Foltest. That's pretty much how I think about this card. And if you're playing Foltest, you have no reason to play this card. You don't need to use that many orders. Trebuchet. Damage a unit by 1. If it was destroyed, damage units adjacent to it by 1. So one interesting thing about this card is that it is one of the only, if not the only, charge unit that can get 3 points per charge. Almost everything else is either 1 or 2. I can't think of anything. I guess like Kion could get you some additional points per charge, but that's a lot of setup. Foltest's Pride as well. But in terms of just like regular cards that aren't really memey, I guess, this can get you 3 points per charge. The only issue is that sometimes you're not going to be able to set this up. And when it dies, you're losing 3 provisions worth of... Yeah, I don't know why this is a 3 for 6. This could very easily just be right next to the other 3 for 5, 2 per charge NR machine bronzes. I get that the ceiling on this is technically higher, but the ceiling is also really situational. Aedirnian Mauler. A 3 for 6 with Order and Reach 1 to damage an enemy by 4. I mean, it's 7. You get 7 out of it. It's just got 2 of the worst things a card can have in Order and Reach 1, and not enough power to live. Let's just ignore how this card is actually worse than like some Nilfgaard 4s are. Like, compare this card to the fringe playable Alba Spearman. Sure, it has an extra point of power, but this is also a deploy and 2 less provisions. Poor NR. What did they do to you? I guess not very much. This is pretty much the same position it was in before. Reach 1 order 3 points NR. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I think CDPR kind of underestimated how good removal was somehow. Significantly. Field Medic, deploy, boost adjacent units by 2. So this is a 6 for 6. It allows you to set some things up with, what's it called, Lyrian Scytheman. I didn't really see very many people tinkering with this, and I didn't really get a chance to myself. It's kind of interesting. Like, it's a 6 for 6 that gives you some synergy. You can set this up, you can set Ada up with this. You can keep things alive. I don't know what you'd really want to keep alive. You can buff your Trident infantries. Yeah, except for the Blue Stripe Commando. It's kind of the best value card that we've seen in the 6-point bronzes so far. The only bad thing is you need to have 2 units live in NR. Yeah. I guess that's probably one of the problems with the Scytheman decks, is just that so many decks are dealing damage that it's difficult to get enough boosted allies in play to where this is meaningful. Like, it's break-even when you have 2 boosted allies. So, like, if you get a Field Medic off, you're hitting break-even with Scytheman. And you do kind of have to go pretty wide, which makes you vulnerable to stuff like Wolfsbane as well. I don't know, in the future, I could see, like, boost and R being more reasonable. It's just not the right metagame for it right now. Forbidden Magic. Damage an enemy by 1 for every Spectre ally. Is this card ever going to be better than Alzur's Thunder? Unless you play Draug, but in which case you've played Draug, and it doesn't really matter that you're damaging an enemy by 1 for every Spectre ally. Like, why is this a card? Why is this 5 provisions? Why can't this just be 4? It wouldn't even be playable at 4. If this card said, if you control a Spectre, destroy target enemy, it would probably be good. Never mind. That would probably be good. But this is so bad. 5 for 0. Yeah, like, how many Spectres even are there? So you got Cursed Knight, who you don't really want to ever play, now that Hensel was changed. You have Kedweni Revenant, who you don't want to play naturally, you just want to get them off Draugs. And you have Damned Sorceress. So in terms of, like, Spectres you can reasonably put in your deck, you cap at, like, 4 value until your Revenants go crazy. And if your Revenants go crazy, you're probably already winning the round. And then obviously, Draug. You'll not play it for 3p. I would play a 0-point card at 3p in NR. Not even close. You get so many mulligans with Full Dust. I would play a card that said if you play this card, give your opponent 1,000 points. For 3 provisions in NR. How much Pierce Infantry? 6. Any NR card is secretly cursed but not tagged. They're also all doomed. They just don't say it, but it's lore friendly. Ballista. Damage a unit by 1. Charge 1, reach 2. So, I mean, I guess this one lives. It's just there's no benefit to this thing living. I'm reviewing the other factions too. I did Monsters, Nilfgaard, and Neutral cards over the last couple days. They're going to slowly be going up on my YouTube channel here over the next couple days. And we're doing NR, Scoia'tael, and Skellige tonight. Or the second half of NR, Skellige and Scoia'tael tonight. But yeah, it's a 5 for 5. And you don't really want to give this thing charges, because the charges are only worth 1 point. I'm not really sure what the purpose of this card is. I sort of get why they thought they needed to make these 5 for 5s. Because when you give them charges, they become so much more valuable. But, like, with Ballista, are you really gonna tell me that this couldn't just have 2 charges on it naturally? So that when it sometimes lives, you actually get 6 points out of your 5 provision card? Is that really cheating too hard in a game where we have Archospores? In a game where we have Magna Divisions? In a game where we have the reveal stuff? Is that really too good? There's no crazy synergy with giving this thing 2 charges. There's no crazy synergy when this thing lives. There's just no value anywhere. Non-existent card while Reinforced Ballista exists. Well, the only thing that this does well is that it's good at living. There's just no payoff for when it lives. Make it 4P? Yeah, this could very easily be the 4P machine. I would play it. It's better than some of the other 4P cards that I was playing in NR. Which, I mean, isn't saying much, because they're just mulligan fodder. Ban our tutor. Boost an ally by 1 for each of its charges. So here's the card that wants to cross over the heavy charge deck with the boost deck. And I feel like you're probably spreading yourself too thin if you try to do that. Like, how many points is this realistically going to boost something by? 2 if you're lucky? I feel like you're going to play a lot of just, like, 5 for 5 Banard tutors. Points of Foltest Pride. Yeah. Ballista used to be such a cool card. Now it's just like the worst in our machine. It doesn't even serve a purpose. I don't know, I would need to look more into boost in our cards before I thought too much about this. I'm pretty sure there just isn't enough cards for an entire archetype here, especially not one that's like combining with charges. You'd rather just go all in on charges or all in on boost. Use the Visigota if it lives. The problem with that is you have to not give the Visigota immunity. And if you're not giving the Visigota immunity, and you're stockpiling charges on it, you're gonna have a bad time. And it feels like you either crush or get crushed. Yes. Either your engines live and you're going to destroy your opponent, or your engines do not live and your opponent is going to destroy you. Visigota lives without immune. Sometimes. Not very commonly, but sometimes. Depends how much other stuff your opponent has to kill, right? They only have so much removal. Battering Ram. Oh, man. In PTR, this was the best bronze removal card, and they had to add this condition to it if you control a soldier, which makes it so much worse against the heavy artifact decks. Because a lot of the heavy artifact decks can just keep you off having a soldier, and your Battering Ram never gets to destroy anything. It's also not a human, which is also unfortunate. I don't know, when I was playing Full Test and I wanted artifact removal, I just played Bomb Heaver over it. I wasn't happy about it, but I played Bomb Heaver over Battering Ram. Why Sapper is so much easier to proc than Ram? Yeah, I don't really know why Sapper is so much easier to proc than all the others. I don't know, in the end, Frenzy Dow's still better than all of them, so who really cares? I think it's unplayable. Well, one thing about Battering Ram is if you're not worried about the all-in artifact decks for whatever reason, and you just want to have artifact removal to, like, shore up your Croc matchup, Battering Ram's great, right? It's a 4 for 5, you get to pop the Mastercrafted Spear. It lets you push rounds much deeper. Gives you a chance in a long round against them. But over most of the patch, you had to be worried about the heavy artifact decks. And the heavy artifact decks, it's not hard for them to respect Battering Ram. Okay, Winnie Knight. Play it from the deck, boost self by 4. So this is, strangely enough, the strongest thing that you can use Henselt on. Despite Henselt getting additional value for, like, zealing things. Yeah. I guess the Zeal just, like, lets you do other stuff with Henselt as well. So you play Kedweni Knight, you use Henselt. For your leader and a 5 provision card, you're getting... What is that? 12 plus 4 is 16. It's not that crazy until you're going, like, Summoning Circle. Almost 0 possibilities to pull from your deck now. I mean, there was a Summoning Circle Henselt deck going around. Malegion played it in a tournament. But yeah, generally you're going to have to play the first copy from your hand, unless you're doing something weird like Royal Decreeing for it. You lose the Zeal Pact if you Henselt this. Yeah, but you're getting more points out of this than anything that you could get where the Zeal matters. Like, you trade Zeal for the boost self by 4 to get an 8-point body base. Like, if we look at the NR bronzes, what? We're going to pool one of these, and then we get 7 base. That's still less. We're going to pool one of these, we get 5 base. I guess when you pull one of that, I mean, that doesn't even work. You can pull one of these. Get, like, an engine. You can pull one of these and get 5. Like, the next best thing is you can pull one of these, and if you have a target for it, you're getting 11 total, which is still less. Yeah, you can use Vernon Roche. The more you thin, the more reasonable that can be. The only issue is if you're trying to Vernon Roche into this, your Henselt gets a little risky. Because when you pull double Kedweni Knight off the Vernon, you might end up inadvertently bricking your Henselt. Not totally sure how you could build around that more reliably. I mean, you could just not play Henselt, I guess. If there was a way to thin to 2 in, like, a full test deck, that'd be kind of cool. But there just isn't. You can play Witchers, you can play Roach, you can play Commando. And then you're starting to pay, like, a lot of provisions to get more thinning effects. And that only thins to 5. You'd still need 3 more. You should really just rework Henselt. Why? What's wrong with Henselt? He's just a good one-shot ability. Hero marching orders? I mean... I did say your other options were really expensive. I would call that really expensive. Roche Blue Dream. That's kind of cute. Maybe. In total, that would thin you to 1. You'd have to be able to kill the Roche. If there were more cards like Kedweni Knight, I would like that a lot more. Such an unreliable leader just feels bad? What do you mean? Henselt's very reliable. He's more reliable now than he was before. Because your opponent doesn't get a chance to interact with him. You play a unit and Henselt at the same turn. Can we talk about how this is a bronze staple for, like, almost every NR deck? This card's really not good. It's just better than everything else you can play. In the context of any other faction, I don't think you'd ever play this. Now, it does do some cool things, right? You can, like, make your Ana bigger so that you can start that going. You can try to keep engines alive, I guess. You can leave charges on this to, like, buff your Seltkirk if you really want. And if you have a Trident infantry in play, you get some extra points there. But man, this card is really not good. It's just better than everything else. Obviously, synergy with Trident. Yeah, it's just that, like, when you play cards like that, usually the synergy together gets you good rate. But it really doesn't here. The Trident becomes a 5 for 4. Now, granted, it stays in play, so you can use it some more later. But, like, you're cheating by 1 point. On low provision cards. It's funny because the combos in NR give the regular point. Yeah, exactly. Like, you work really hard to make your stuff live. Like, keep your ballista alive. And you get the value of an average Scoia'tael bronze. Not an average Scoia'tael 5, but an average Scoia'tael 4. This card is honestly on the same level as, like, BME and the Dwarf that deals 3 in buffs. But hey, if you're playing NR, this card's probably in your deck. Can't blame you for it. It gets even worse when you get to the 4s. Reinforced Ballista, it's a 2-point per charge. If you're playing Demavend, this is probably one of the bronzes you want to play. It usually doesn't live, it usually gets moved, but at least your opponent's using removal on this instead of one of your other cards. The main idea with Demavend is typically that you want to just overload your opponent's removal. And to do that, you need to play a lot of threats, and this is technically a threat for 5 provisions. Next card's kind of the same idea with T-Shower. You play it, it usually gets moved or dies or something, but at least they did something to it, so that it's removal they don't have for something else. Yeah. Just Demavend things. Done banner. Gain Zeal. If played adjacent to 2 soldiers, order damage an enemy by 3, reach 1. So, this card looks a lot better than it is. It looks like you're gonna pretty reliably get 6 points out of this. Except getting Zeal is actually kind of tricky. And when this doesn't have Zeal, it's trash. And it has reach 1. Alba Spearman would do 4. Alba Spearman would deal 4, but it also has 1 less point. Now, granted, this is also 1 more provision. So yes, this is still worse than an Alba Spearman, which is a fringe playable Nilfgaard bronze. Yeah, it's a sad day to be an NR fan. They didn't do too well this patch. Golgothana Archer, 3 removal, 3 strength, no condition. Yeah. Like, when you compare this card to something like Panther, or Bowman, or really any Scoia'tael card, even comparing this card to Dwarven Skirmisher, it's just kind of sad. Reach 1 is silly. Reach 1 is a huge drawback. It makes your removal... like... So the good thing about removal is that you can use removal to deny engines. But if your opponent knows that your deck has a lot of Reach 1 stuff, they're able to play around this and only put stuff they don't care about dying into the melee row. So that your damage effects are really just points instead of doubling as, like, having removal utility. And not that many engines are melee locked either. So Reach 1's just, like, extra bad. Yeah, I don't know. Poor NR cards. Temerian Infantry. Damage an enemy by 1 for each boosted unit on this row. This is the other boost in our payoff. I think after we see Wolfsbane nerfed, I want to experiment with this a little bit. I'm not sure that there's any kind of potential. It seems really prone to getting bled. But if it's able to reliably win round 1, I could see there being something here. It's just that when your opponent can play Wolfsbane and take all the boosts off of all your units and brick all your bronzes, you're just not in for a good time. It might end up being a little bit too reliant on either like a Wyvern Scale Shield not getting removed or a Visigota sticking. Because I'm not really sure how else you throw a lot of boosts around. Even then, when you play a Wyvern Scale Shield, it's a turn that you're not playing a unit. And since all your stuff benefits from having boosted units, a turn where you're not playing a unit is kind of a big deal. You're trading payoffs for setup. Aretuza Adept. Zeal, order, range to give a charge to an allied unit, cooldown 2. This is another Dem Event card. If you're playing a bunch of stuff that gets 2 points per charge, this comes down immediately as a 5 for 5 that threatens to be an engine every 2 turns to give you an additional 2 points. I don't know, I ended up cutting this from Dem Event. The issue ended up being I couldn't get my charge units to stick in the first place. Because those were the threats that my opponent had to worry about. They could just like let this live and just kill every actual charge unit that I played. So by replacing Aretuza Adept and just playing more charge units, you legitimately overload their removal better. Because they can't just choose to ignore this one. I don't know, I thought this card was going to be better than it was. It just doesn't fit the game plan. When it's good, but it doesn't solve any problem that the deck has. It's just kind of win more. Edweni Revenant, also known as a Draug token. I don't know why I'd want to put this in my deck. People do put this in their decks. I don't really get why you would. It's not the worst. It's just kind of situational when you can consider you can just play Rivian Pikeman, which is a deployability that kind of does the same thing. It's just you don't get to like keep looping Edweni Revenants. But really, it requires so much setup to turn these on. And it's in order. You kind of have to use a full test charge on, or it's just going to die. You can play both. Yeah, but do you really want to? I never thought I wanted to. I never even really wanted to be playing Pikemen. I've played so many 4-point Pikemans. Is there... There's no metal. He's... Do you guys see this? I guess he's only dealing 1 point here. Is it different in the non-premium? No, there's a bloody piece of metal there. just it's just not visible. Is it visible if I craft it? Is it just like I can't see it because it's grayscale? No, it's... You're just getting stabbed by an invisible piece of metal. Okay. You always get full value out of pikemen. I mean, I guess it depends on what your deck is. But especially like shorter round 3s, there's definitely no way you always get full value out of pikemen. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Oh. The other thing about like pikemen versus revenant is that removal now is worth so much more than removal next turn. Because your opponent has like a Necker or an Archospore in play. You don't even get a window to kill it next turn with Revenant. Or you can take it out with Pikeman. The metal is full of blood. I mean, I think you're looking at the standard one. Because in the premium one, there's definitely nothing here. They actually just forgot to render the metal piece. Look at Roche Merciless. Yeah, see, this guy's got a bloody dagger. Lyrian Arbalist. Damage a unit by 1, charge 1, gain 1 charge whenever you play a card with orders. This would be cool if playing cards with orders was good. I don't know. So, in Demavend, this is sort of like the same idea as Siege Master, except instead of getting your 2 points immediately, you still get to save those 2 points for later and you get 1 point immediately. It sort of still gives you that insurance. This is a little bit more must answer, I think. Fun fact, Revenant has the exact same amount of tempo on OBT. It's 12 strength, medium bronze value. Oh. Yeah, Revenant definitely got better. Gives you points to play. Yeah, this gives you points to play bad cards. I wasn't even playing it in my demo event deck. There's a 4 that kind of does the same sort of thing. Like, you can just play Lyrian Cavalry. It's just as easy to kill, but it costs 1 less provision. And you don't want too many of these type of insurance cards. Because again, your opponent doesn't really have to kill them. You're not getting super good value with your Cavalry or your Arbalist living. It just sort of, like, hedges you along a little bit, so if your opponent has a bunch of removal, you're at least getting some points as you play your cards. It's pretty close to be a simply worse Elven Swordmaster. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you could say close to being a worse Elven Swordmaster. I think you can comfortably say that this is a worse Elven Swordmaster. Full stop. At least it's not roll-locked. Swordmaster's 4P. Yeah, exactly. It's 4P. It gets half of a charge per turn just passively. Elf is an easier tag than Orders. They both die. I don't really know what else to say. At least it doesn't have the word order on it. Yes, it does. Right here. Lyrian Thingy-mabob. Order, damage a unit by 1. If Lyrian Thingamabob is boosted, damage enemy by 3 instead. Reach 2. So if you work really, really hard, You get a Panther. With order. Lyrian Hue. Lyrian Thingamabob. I don't know why. Guys. What? So, this is a card. And 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 this is a card. Why? There's no synergy here. Like, sure, you have orders, so, like, you get a point on Arbalest and a point on Lyrian Cavalry. Something that stuff like Nilfgaard just gets for free with real tags like Deploy. Why is this a 5? This could honestly be a 4. This is worse than Pirate Captain. Like, I don't think of Skellige as having great bronzes. But I don't think anyone would say Pirate Captain is too good. And I'm pretty sure this condition is easier than having your card be forced to be boosted and in order. Don't want me to waste a full test charge? But why would I waste a full test charge? I'm getting 1 point on my full test charge. Man. Easy way to fix NR. Full test infinite charges? Oh man. Honestly, if NR had like a 1 mulligan passive leader that was just John Natalis. Obviously, if orders were balanced properly, that would be ridiculous. But I feel like with orders in their current form, it would be fine. Oh my god. And are always the weakest faction. Yep. NR had Old Hensel. Well, it did in PTR. It was kind of fucked up. It's probably the best deck in PTR. You could just like build your deck to not get 2-0'd. You could play shit like Ragnarok and Dragon's Dream and just like run out Dragon's Dream in round 1 on blue coin. It just didn't matter because you had a 40-point finisher. PFI. Why? What happened to you? Why is this what PFI does now? This is such a boring 5 for 5. So for the boost synergy deck, I guess this gives you an extra point, singular, on your Scytheman and Temerian infantry. The old bear, 5 strength, 6 provisions is better than 60% of NR bronzes. Yes. I don't actually think you're wrong. NR has a 4 for 4 that is basically a vanilla that I play in my NR deck. Like, I almost got 2600 MMR playing a vanilla 4 for 4. That's how bad NR cards are. PFI is boring, but it's proactive enough. Yeah, I mean, you end up playing it just because NR cards suck. It's sort of like the same idea as why... God, where is it? Kidweni Sergeant is good. It's just a 5 for 5, and a 5 for 5 is kind of all you're expecting out of your 5 provision cards. So... at least with the other guy, there's some synergy. You get to do some stuff like set up your Ana. You can't really do any of that with PFI. Blue Stripe Scout. Easily the best 4 in NR. One of the best cards in NR. Purely because of its synergy with Blue Stripe Commando. When you go round 1 Blue Stripe Commando, use a full test charge, pull another Commando. If your opponent doesn't kill that second Commando, you get to play an 8-point bronze for 4. And the really cool thing about an 8-point bronze for 4 is that it's a card that you want to play in round 1, but in round 3 you're just happy mulliganing it, which is really nice with a 4 mulligan leader. Generally, your cheaper cards you're not going to want to mulligan into round 1, because your mulligans are just worth more later when your deck is thinner and you can actually see your entire deck. So being able to play this as an 8 and still keep up tempo, so that it's like an actual card in your hand early, even though it's bad in round 3, that doesn't matter because you're just planning on mulliganing it anyway. Some people tried to go crazy and like they played like Pavetta and all that stuff, and that's cute. You can do that. It makes your Blue Stripe Scouts live in round 3. You really don't need to do that. You're happy just mulliganing your 4 provision cards. Your high provision stuff is so good anyway. You're just happy to draw all into that. In round 1, the card's great. In round 3, the card's filler. Exactly where you want a 4 to be. This card is perfect. Kidweni Cavalry. The second best. I guess the third best. NR bronze. It goes like... or I guess, the best 4, I should say. It goes like Blue Stripe Scout, Damned Sorceress, and then like you fall down pretty far. And then you get to Kidweni Cavalry. Probably like 95% of the time you play this, it's a 4 for 4. However, it has 4 power, which means versus reveal, this card wins clashes. And since you never want to play this card, you always mulligan it into your deck. So its power is actually relevant. Like if this were a 5 for 4 that you couldn't ever play, like if it's in your hand, you just have to discard it, I think I would still play it in full test. Okay, that might be going a little bit far. Like, this is a human that you can play worst case, but you mulligan this so often, and it's so rare that you actually have to play it, that it just being a big dude in your deck matters more than anything else. Obviously, in some matchups, like in the mirror match, sometimes you just like kill an Enike, or you blow up like a Synthesis Blaze, or you queue into Demavend and this card just wins you the game because you get ridiculous value. But for the most part, you're just happy to play a 4 for 4 human. It wins clashes. We just assume reveal will get changed. Yeah, you can, but that doesn't really help us when we're looking at what just happened over the last month. Tried him. Oh, I guess this guy's good too. This guy's good too. Forgot about this one. Yeah, this guy turns Visigota into a 4-point per turn engine. With Ana, you're getting 3 points per turn. With like Wyvern Scale Shield, you're getting additional point every time Wyvern Scale goes off. This card's cool. I like it. It just dies a lot. It's the only issue. If you're not already playing a bunch of things your opponent wants to kill, then it's kind of just like as a magnet for their removal. And it's pretty easy to deal with. You're not usually buffing at the same turn you play it. And if you have a Visigota that walks, you're probably winning anyway. You don't really need Trident Infantry. It's also bad versus big removal. I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad. Because if you have a lot of buffs, your buffs are going somewhere. So the tar removal is going to be good regardless. And at least here, you're getting your points. guaranteed. So if they get like a 20-point Scorch on Trident Infantry, you still got those other 17 points somewhere else. Whereas if you were to split this up and instead they only got like a 10-point Scorch, you're still down a bunch of points because you didn't get those bonus points off Trident Infantry. It feels bad when it gets hit by big removal because you're not winning by as much. But in terms of raw value, you're still fine. Lyrian Cavalry. This is the other card that people play over Kadweni Cavalry in the full test deck when they need another 4. The biggest issue is you never actually want to play this. Sometimes you get like a 5 or a 6 out of this, but since in almost every situation you're just mulliganing this, it's actually a liability because it loses you clashes. It makes your Arbalists actually kill your Blue Stripe Commandos, just a pretty big deal actually. Especially in round 3, like, or round 1 when you're trying to like set up your Blue Stripe Scouts. You really don't want those Arbalists stealing 4. But yeah, since you so rarely play it, I'd rather just either have a card that can sometimes just win me the game accidentally if my opponent's a weird deck, or in like matchups where the cards in my deck matter. Since this spends a majority of the time in my deck, I'd rather just be the better card in my deck. You call it Ambitious Cavalry? Well, the thing is, in full test, it's not even all that ambitious, because you don't play that many order units. You've got Vess, Botchling. And if you're playing this before Botchling, then you're losing a point on Botchling anyway most of the time. Then you have your 2 full test targets, and then your blue stripe commandos. So you got like 6 order units. How many of those are you really going to have in your hand at any one time? Like, it's not even optimistic. It just even when it doesn't die, it's worse than a lot of 4s. The same 1 in 5, hit the 1 shot. Yeah. If you're playing like a heavy orders deck, this card's great. Like, I'm playing this in my Demavent deck just because it's sort of the same idea as Arbalist. It gives you that insurance when your order units do die. You're still at least getting a point every time you play one. But I'm not excited by it. It's just... It's filler. It feels like all NR bronzes are filler. Siege support. Give 2 charges to a machine ally. Any patch note news? No, I think we're getting that tomorrow, they said. I'm not sure what time. Hey, Vegas, what's up? Siege support, deploy, give 2 charges to a machine ally. Assuming charges are worth 2 apiece, like they are in most Demavend lists. I know, it kind of sucks that you can't give charges to, like, Ivo or Margita Brake. It has to be one of your bronzes. Or, like, Full Test Pride. And those are the ones that are most prone to dying, because they're so small. But when it's good, you're getting 6 for 4, which, I mean, is technically what you're trying to get out of a 4 provision bronze. It's just way more situational than all of the other factions' way of doing it. Like, again, compare this to Pirate Captain. Pirate Captain's so much easier. Compare this to Marauder. Where does it say we get news on the patch one day before console launch? Yeah, so tomorrow. Well, I guess technically today, depending on what time zone you're in. Lyrian Scytheman. Boost self by 1 for each boosted ally. We kind of talked about this already. I do want to tinker around with this a little bit more when there's less Wolfspans going around. But it does seem like this card is really kept in check by Because, like, A, you want to go wide, which is bad against Wolfsbane. And B, after your opponent plays Wolfsbane, this isn't doing anything anymore. Because all your boosts go away. Yeah. Damned Sorceress. Damage an enemy by 3. Reach 2. Seems super win more. Well, no, because just having units in play isn't actually winning. Even just having boosted units in play isn't necessarily winning, depending on how high they're boosted. If everything in play is like boosted by like 1 or 2, you're not actually winning the game because of that. Your opponent could just be doing something bigger. And this can theoretically be a very big play as a 4 provision card. Like, imagine swarming the board, having like, I don't know how you would do this, but imagine getting like 15 units in play, playing a Bone Talisman for 15 points, and then just going like Scytheman over the next 2 turns. Yeah, Bone Talisman is neutral. I'm not sure how you would swarm like that in NR in the current card pool. I don't think you really can. But you certainly can't do that right now when you have like Forktails and Wolfsbanes going around. If they had one more card like Anna, these boost runs would be a lot better. Maybe. Maybe. This is probably the second best NR bronze. 3 kills a lot of shit. 3 kills Swordmasters, 3 kills Demovin's Machines, 3 kills the Nilfgaard card that gets +1 every time a deploy is played. 3 is just a pretty big number right now. It does a lot of like things that are just barely enough. And you get a body left over, and having 1 power means that you can kill it off with a Kidmany Revenant after you Draug. While this doesn't itself transform, which is a little unfortunate, it does give you a target for Revenants if your opponent doesn't have enough. Also sets up 1s. Yeah. I guess that's worth mentioning, right? Because 4 is also a big number. You can go hit a Trebuchet down to 3, which sets up your... I don't even know what this card is called. Rivian Pikeman later. On the following turn. Same idea with any other 4-point unit. But yeah, it's basically just... It's a wolf pack that trades a point for a damage, and... Turns out that's good enough in NR. Yeah. So that's NR. We did the golds yesterday, did the bronzes today. Before we move on to Scoia'tael, I'm going to take a quick restroom break. I'll be back in like 2 minutes, and we'll start talking about Scoia'tael cards. Hope you guys stick around.